Hi guys, I'm going to try to go over the trapezoids notes with you because a couple of you guys had a few questions on how I came up with an answer. All right, so the essential question for these notes is what are the properties of a trapezoid? We're going to go through and we're going to go over them and then we're going to be able to apply it to problems to see if we can find missing sides and missing angles. All right, so we have two different types of trapezoids. We have a non-isosceles trapezoid and then we have an isosceles trapezoid. So hopefully you guys remember back to when we did triangles, and isosceles triangles had two congruent sides. Okay, so an isosceles trapezoid, it just means that the two sides that are in between that parallel line are going to be congruent, and they're going to be called the non-parallel legs. Okay, so let's first just start with this whole idea of non-isosceles trapezoids. So it has one pair of opposite sides that are parallel. Okay, that's what makes a trapezoid. And then this part's important. It says consecutive angles between parallel lines are supplementary. Okay, so that means that these two angles here and here, okay, they're the two angles that are in between the parallel lines are supplementary, and that means that they add up to be 180. So this picture, a little bit easy, right? But if this was 90, this would be 90. Well, if this was 140, then this would be 40. They have to both add up to be 180. Then we can go ahead and go down to the non-isosceles trapezoid. So for here, for the non-isosceles trapezoid, it has those two same conditions. Okay, it has the same two properties, so only one pair of opposite sides are parallel, and then same thing here with the consecutive angles that are supplementary. And then it also has these four. Okay, it says non-parallel side legs are congruent. So these two legs are congruent. If this is 10, then that is 10. It says that the base angles are congruent. So we call these our bases. So a trapezoid, if you remember, like when you went to find the area of a trapezoid, it would be like base 1 and base 2. So these parallel sides are both considered to be base angles. So if this is 50, this would be 50. If this is 80, this would be 80. Okay, they're always going to be equal there. So let's go ahead and look over that again. All right, so this is of the isosceles trapezoid because it has a lot more properties than a non-isosceles. So here, my two sides that are in between the parallel lines are congruent. Okay, so these two angles are congruent, these two angles are congruent, and then technically this angle and this blue angle is going to add up to be 180. So they're all of our properties. Okay. All right, so let's go over how I came up with these answers. So it says for each quadrilateral below is a trapezoid, find the missing measures. So the first one, number A, is a non-isosceles trapezoid. And I know that because JM is not congruent to KL. So the first thing it asked me to do is to find measure K. Okay. So technically, I know that these two angles are called the consecutive angles in between the parallel line, and they have to be supplementary. So all I do to find K is do 180 minus 51, and that gives me 129. Okay, and that same exact thing I'm going to do for that angle M. This angle J and this angle M are going to be supplementary, so I do 180 minus 87, and that's how I get that 93 degrees. So then let's move on to problem B, right? So problem B, now you can see that that PS and that QR are congruent, so therefore that it's going to be an isosceles trapezoid. So now I'm going to look over my properties of isosceles trapezoids. Okay, so right now I know that my base angles are congruent. So that means that P and Q are going to be congruent. Well, if this is 112, then P is going to be 112. Okay, it still has that same property as I did before. So that angle Q, oops, sorry, that angle Q, okay, and sorry, messing up here. That angle Q and that angle R have to be supplementary, so they have to add up to be 180. All right, so they would do 112 from 180, I'll get 68. And then these two base angles would also have to be 100, also have to be equal. So if this is 68, this would be 68. All right, so then you guys can go ahead and try these two problems. They're pretty much identical to what I just did. Another concept when we talk about trapezoids is they have a mid segment of a trapezoid connects the midpoints of the legs. So it pretty much just says that if EF is the mid segment of a trapezoid, then I can say that EF, so I'm looking for like line segments, the length of this EF is equal to the two parallel lines divided by 2. Okay, very easy concept, shouldn't be too hard. So like, for example, I kind of set this up pretty easy for you guys, but I'm looking for this mid segment, right? So all I have to do to find the length of this is to take AB, which is 14, plus DC, which is 26, add them together and divide by 2. So I would get 40 divided by 2, and I would say that EF is equal to 20. Okay, now let's say that I gave you this mid segment and I'm looking for one of these parallel lines. I would just plug it into the formula. Okay, so I would say that this mid segment is equal to, I don't know what AB is, so I can call that X plus 38 divided by 2. I would multiply each side by 2, right? So that would become 44 is equal to AB plus 38, and then I would subtract 38 from each side, and I would get 6. All right, and then you guys have to do that problem. Don't get confused just because it has some algebra in it. You're still going to plug it all in and solve it the same way. Okay, so multiply each side by 2, get rid of that denominator, and then go ahead and solve that multi-step equation. I also gave you some extra practice with this one. So I want you guys to go through and work on these extra practice problems. If you have any questions on this stuff, I am having office hours on Wednesday and Friday. So just make sure you're checking Google Classroom. All right, guys.